The shuttle touched down on Vega 7 just as the second sun began to set. Do-yeon Park grabbed his bag and stepped onto the landing platform. The air was thick and wet, like breathing through a warm cloth. Strange sounds came from the jungle that surrounded the small colony. Screams, howls, and something deeper. Something that made the ground shake. A tall, insect-like creature walked toward him. It had 4 arms, large black eyes, and moved in a way that seemed nervous. This was Ambassador Threll of the Villani species. Behind him walked a shorter alien with gray skin and 4 muscular arms. Supervisor Mock of the Brellian people. Sergeant Park, Ambassador Threll said. His voice clicked and buzzed. Welcome to Outpost Vega 7. Please follow us to the orientation room. There are things you must know before you take another step on this world. Do-yeon nodded and followed. He had been a soldier in the Korean Special Forces for 10 years. After that, he joined private security for the Galactic Union. He had seen many alien worlds, but something about this place felt different. The jungle seemed alive in a way he had never experienced before. Inside the main building, he found a room full of new arrivals. Most were aliens of different species. But in the corner, he noticed a human woman with short black hair and curious eyes. She was looking at a data pad, completely focused on whatever she was reading. Her name tag said Dr. Unikong, xenobiologist. Ambassador Threll stood at the front of the room. A large holographic screen appeared behind him. Welcome to Vega 7, the ambassador began. This planet has many dangers. Poison plants, acid rivers, predators that hunt in packs. But there is one danger that stands above all others. One creature that you must never, under any condition, approach. The screen flickered. An image appeared. Do-yeon felt the room go silent. The creature on the screen was massive. It looked like a giant cat mixed with a dragon. Its body was covered in black scales that shined like oil. Its eyes glowed with a deep purple light. Sharp teeth filled its mouth. Claws like curved swords extended from its feet. It stood 4 meters tall at the shoulder, maybe more. This is the Valdrix ambassador, Threll said. His voice was now very serious. It is the apex predator of 12 star systems. It fears nothing. It eats everything. Our warships have weapons that can destroy cities. The Valdrix does not care. We have seen one tear through a battlecruiser like paper. Oh. Do-yeon watched the footage. The creature moved with terrible grace. Fast and powerful and intelligent. This was not just an animal. This was death with scales. Our colony exists only because we stay small and quiet, the ambassador continued. We do not attract attention. We do not make the Valdrix curious. And most importantly, we never touch them. Do you understand? Never. Even looking at one for too long can trigger an attack. If you see a Valdrix, you run, you hide. You pray to whatever gods you believe in. The presentation ended. Aliens around the room looked frightened. Some were shaking. Supervisor Mock made a religious gesture with his 4 hands. Do-yeon raised his hand. Yes, Sergeant Park. Ambassador Threll asked, what is the effective range of their hunting behavior? How far will they chase? And do they hunt alone or in groups? The room went quiet again. Every alien turned to look at Do-yeon. Their eyes were wide with something between confusion and horror. You wish to know tactical information about the Valdrix? Ambassador Threll asked slowly. I'm security, Do-yeon said simply. I need to know how to protect people. That means understanding the threat. Supervisor Mock made a sound like a growl. Humans, he muttered. Either very brave or very stupid. I have not decided which. After the orientation, Do-yeon walked outside to study the perimeter defenses. The colony was protected by energy shields and sensor systems. Guard towers stood at each corner. It was not bad for a civilian outpost. But he could already see weaknesses. You're not scared, are you? He turned. Dr. Unikong stood behind him. She was smaller than he expected, but her eyes held a sharp intelligence. Should I be? He asked. Everyone else is. The Valdrix have killed thousands across this sector. Whole colonies have been abandoned because of them. She paused. But you ask questions, like you were planning how to fight one. Not fight, Doyen said. Survive. There's a difference. Yuna smiled slightly. I've been studying them for 2 years. The Valdrix, I mean. Would you like to know something interesting? Always. She looked toward the jungle. The trees were dark now, filled with shadows and strange lights. They've been watching us. The human quarters specifically. I have sensor data showing at least 3 different Valdrix circling our section of the colony over the past month. They never get this close to the alien quarters. Only ours. Doyen considered this. Curious about us? Maybe. Or maybe they see something different in humans. Something the other species don't have. I don't know yet, but I intend to find out. An alarm suddenly filled the air. Red lights flashed across the colony. Doyen's military training kicked in immediately. He checked his weapon and scanned the perimeter. Ambassador Threll's voice came through the speakers. All personnel, seek shelter immediately. Mining Team 7 has reported a Valdrix sighting at the eastern perimeter. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Aliens began running toward the shelter buildings. Panic filled the air. Doyen could smell their fear, sharp chemical scent that most species released when terrified, but he did not run to the shelter. What are you doing? Yuna asked. Someone needs to watch the perimeter, he said. Make sure it holds. That's insane. If the Valdrix breaches the shield, then people will need time to escape. I can give them that time. He began walking toward the eastern guard tower. Then he stopped and looked back at her. You said they're curious about humans. Maybe it's time we got curious about them too. He climbed the tower as the jungle shook with distant roars. Through his scope, he saw movement in the trees. Something massive. Something watching. 2 purple eyes glowed in the darkness. Fixed directly on him. Doyen did not look away. The creature made a sound. Not a roar. Something softer. Almost like a question. Then it was gone, melting back into the shadows of the jungle. Doyen lowered his scope. His heart was beating fast. But it was not fear that filled him. It was something else. Something he had not felt since his first days as a young soldier. Excitement. Whatever these creatures were, they were not mindless beasts. He had seen intelligence in those eyes. Recognition. Maybe even respect. The all-clear signal came an hour later. Doyen climbed down from the tower to find Yuna waiting for him. Well, she asked, did you see it? I saw something, he said quietly. Something that saw me back. Atuna nodded slowly. Her eyes were bright with scientific hunger. Then we have work to do. Sergeant Park, because I think we're about to discover something that will change everything the galaxy thinks it knows about the Valdrix. The jungle screamed around them. Somewhere in the darkness, the apex predator of 12 star systems was watching and waiting. The storm came without warning. One moment the sky was clear. The next, purple lightning tore across the clouds and rain fell like bullets. The wind screamed through the colony, bending trees and shaking buildings. Doyen was in the security office when the first alarm sounded. Chief Engineer Rin, a small gecko-like alien with nervous eyes, came running through the door. The eastern shield generator is down, Rin said. His voice was high with panic. The lightning hit it directly. We have a gap in the perimeter. How long to fix it? Doyen asked. Maybe 3. That was too long. Doyen grabbed his weapon and his communicator. Get every repair team you have on that generator. I'll handle security. He ran through the rain toward the eastern perimeter. Private Yoonji Cho met him halfway. She was young, only 24, but she was one of the best communication specialists he had ever worked with. Sir, I'm picking up movement in the gap, she reported. Multiple contacts? Small and fast. Sketh hounds, Doyen said. He knew them from his briefing. Pack hunters with too many teeth and no fear. Not as dangerous as the Valdrix, but deadly enough to kill. Mining Team 3 is still out there, Yenji said. They took shelter in the processing station when the storm hit. They're trapped. Doyen made his decision in half a second. Get me a rescue team. For people, armed and ready. We move in 5 minutes. The rescue team pushed through the storm. Rain made it hard to see. Thunder made it hard to hear. But Doyan led them forward. Following the GPS signal from the mining station, they found the miners huddled inside the small building. 3 Brillians and 2 Villani, all terrified. The Skethhounds were circling outside, their howls cutting through the wind. "We need to move now," Doyan ordered. "Stay together. Stay calm. We shoot anything that gets close." They made it halfway back to the colony before the hounds attacked. Gray shapes exploded from the darkness. Teeth and claws in terrible speed. Doyan's team opened fire. Bright energy bolts lit up the rain. Hounds fell, but more kept coming. "Keep moving." Doyan shouted, "Don't stop." They reached the perimeter just as the shield flickered back to life. The hounds hit the energy barrier and fell back with angry screams. Everyone was safe. Everyone except Dr. Unikong. Doyan's blood went cold when he heard her voice on the communicator. "I got separated from the group. I'm near the old survey station. The hounds found me." A don't static filled the channel. He didn't think. He just ran. The old survey station was half a kilometer from the colony. Doyan sprinted through the jungle, his weapon ready. The storm was getting worse. Trees crashed down around him. The ground turned to mud under his feet. He heard the hounds before he saw them. Their hunting calls echoed through the rain. And beneath that sound, something else. A human voice. Yuna screaming for help. Doyan burst into a clearing and saw her. Yuna was backed against a rock wall, a small knife in her hand. 12 Skethhounds surrounded her, moving closer with every second. He raised his weapon. He could take maybe 4 of them before they reached her. Not enough. Not nearly enough. Then the world changed. A roar split the air. Not thunder. Something alive. Something massive and ancient and furious. The ground shook. The hounds froze. From the jungle emerged the largest Valdrix Doyan had ever seen. She was beautiful and terrible. Black scales shining with rain. Purple eyes burning like stars. The colonists called her the Obsidian Queen. The oldest and deadliest Valdrix in the region. The hounds turned to run. They were too slow. The queen moved like lightning. Her claws tore through the pack with awful efficiency. In seconds, 12 hounds became 12 bodies on the ground. Blood mixed with rain and mud. Then she turned to face Yuna. Doyan aimed his weapon at the creature. He knew it was pointless. His gun could not hurt something like this. But he would try. He would die trying. But Yuna did something that stopped him cold. She didn't run. The xenobiologist stood perfectly still as the Valdrix approached. The creature was close enough to kill her with a single swipe. Its breath made clouds in the cold rain. Its eyes studied her with terrible intelligence. Yuna's hand was shaking. Her whole body was shaking. But she did not move. Instead, slowly, carefully, she raised her hand toward the creature's face. "Yuna, don't," Doyan whispered. The Valdrix lowered its massive head. It sniffed her hand. A deep rumble came from its chest. Not a growl. Something else. Something almost gentle. Then the impossible happened. The obsidian. Queen pressed her snout against Yuna's palm. Doyun forgot to breathe. In all the records of all the species in all the galaxy, no one had ever touched a Valdrix and lived. This creature had killed thousands. It feared nothing in the universe, and it was letting a small human woman pet it like a house cat. "Why?" Una turned her head slowly. Her eyes met Doyan's. She looked as shocked as he felt. "Come here," she whispered. Slowly. No sudden movements. Every survival instinct in Doyan's body screamed at him to run. He ignored them all. He lowered his weapon and walked toward the creature, one careful step at a time. The Valdrix watched him approach. Those purple eyes tracked his every movement. He could feel the intelligence behind them, measuring him, judging him. He stopped beside Yuna. The creature's face was right in front of him. Up close, he could see the details of its scales, the scars from old battles, the ancient wisdom in its gaze. Slowly, Doyan raised his own hand. The queen studied him for a long moment. Then she made that rumbling sound again and pushed her snout against his palm. Her scales were warm despite the cold rain. Smooth and hard like polished stone. He could feel the power beneath them. Muscles that could crush metal. But also something else. Curiosity. Maybe even affection. How is this possible? Doyan asked quietly. I don't know, Yuna admitted. But I intend to find out. They stood there in the rain for what felt like hours. The storm slowly faded. The stars came out. And through it all, the apex predator of 12 star systems stayed with them. Watching over them like a guardian. Finally, the queen stepped back. She made a sound that might have been farewell. Then she turned and disappeared into the jungle. Doyan and Yuna walked back to the colony in silence. Their minds were full of questions. Their hands still tingled with the memory of impossible contact. When they reached the perimeter, they found a crowd waiting. Aliens of every species stood in shocked silence. Chief Engineer Rin's eyes were so wide they looked ready to fall out of his head. Ambassador Threll was frozen in place, unable to speak. Behind them, Doyan could see the camera feeds. Every moment had been recorded. The whole colony had watched. Supervisor Mock stepped forward. His four hands were trembling. The Valdrix, he said slowly. The apex predator. The killer of worlds. You. You touched it. It let you touch it. And then it followed you home. He pointed toward the jungle. Doyan turned and looked there. Just beyond the perimeter, two purple eyes glowed in the darkness. The Obsidian Queen was watching, waiting, like she was standing guard. Ambassador Threll finally found his voice. It came out as a whisper. What are you humans? Doyan looked at Yuna. She looked back at him. Neither had an answer, but somewhere deep in his chest, Doyan felt something he had not expected. Hope. 3 weeks passed after the night of the storm. In that time, everything changed. The video of Yuna and Doyan touching the Valdrix spread across the galaxy like fire. Every news station played it. Every species watched it. A creature that had terrorized 12 star systems for thousands of years had allowed 2 humans to pet it like a family dog. The scientific community exploded with theories. Religious groups called it a miracle. Military leaders saw opportunity. Politicians saw danger. Everyone had an opinion about what it meant. But on Vega 7, Ney and Doyan had more important things to worry about. The Obsidian Queen came back every day. She arrived each morning just after sunrise. She would walk to the edge of the perimeter and wait there, those purple eyes fixed on the human quarters. If any alien approached, she would growl and show her teeth. But when Yuna or Doyan came out, she would make that soft rumbling sound. The one that meant welcome? She's treating us like pack members, Yuna explained during one of their daily observation sessions. In Valdric's social structure, the pack is everything. They protect each other. They hunt together. They share territory, so she thinks we're part of her pack? Doyan asked. More than that. I think she's adopted us, brought us into her family. Director Haewon Shin arrived from Earth on the 4th week. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, the kind of person who had seen too much to be surprised by anything. But even she stopped in her tracks when she saw the Obsidian Queen lying outside the human building like a guard dog. Well, Director Shin said after a long moment. This is going to require a lot of paperwork. She set up meetings with the colony leadership and the Galactic Union representatives. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. How were humans able to bond with the Valdrix? Yuna had been working on that question for weeks. She presented her findings in the main conference room, with Doyan standing beside her and the Queen visible through the window behind them. Human biochemistry is unique in several ways, Yuna began. We produce a specific combination of pheromones that no other known species shares. To the Valdrix, these pheromones signal something important. We register as pack neutral, not prey, not rivals, something in between. Ambassador Threll raised a trembling hand. But surely that cannot be the only factor. Other species have tried to approach the Valdrix with chemical masking. They were all killed because of fear, Una said simply. Every species in the galaxy fears the Valdrix. That fear produces stress hormones, chemical signals that say prey. The Valdrix are incredibly sensitive to these signals. They can smell terror from kilometers away. And humans don't produce these signals? Supervisor Mock asked.
We do.
But we can control them. Human evolution gave us the ability to override our fear responses through conscious choice. We can be afraid and still act calm. We can face death and refuse to run. Una smiled slightly. Most species think we're insane, but it's actually adaptation. On Earth, our ancestors had to live alongside predators, lions, tigers, bears, wolves. We learned that showing fear meant becoming food, so we learned to master fear. The room was silent. Aliens looked at each other with expressions of wonder and concern. Doyan stepped forward. There's more. The Valdrix are intelligent, really intelligent. They don't just hunt. They think, they plan, they remember. When they look at other species, they see creatures that are either food or threats. But when they look at humans, they see something else. Equals, maybe even friends. Unprecedented, Ambassador Threll said slowly. In 10,000 years of galactic history, no species has ever formed a peaceful relationship with the Valdrix. Director Shin nodded, which is why Earth is very interested in expanding this research. With the colony's permission, we would like to establish a formal Valdrix relations program. More human researchers. More contact. More understanding. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some aliens saw opportunity. Researcher Velk, a young Villani scientist, was especially excited. Think of what we could learn, he said. The Valdrix are the oldest predators in known space. They may have knowledge that could benefit everyone. Others saw danger. Supervisor Mock slammed his 4 fists on the table. You are playing with fire. The Valdrix cannot be tamed. They cannot be trusted. What happens when this bond breaks? What happens when they decide humans are food after all? But in the end, curiosity won over fear. The program was approved. Over the following weeks, Doyan began spending more time with the Obsidian Queen. At first, he just sat near her. Let her get used to his presence. Learned her sounds and movements, what she liked. What annoyed her? What made her laugh? Because yes, the Valdrix could laugh. It was a strange rumbling sound, but unmistakable. Then he started testing boundaries. He gave her commands. Simple ones at first. Come, stop. Wait. She listened. Not like a pet obeying an owner. More like a soldier following a sergeant she respected. She had her own will. Her own opinions. But she chose to cooperate. One evening, a young male Valdrix approached the colony. He was smaller than the queen, but still massive. Still deadly. He had been attracted by the sounds and smells of the outpost. The queen moved to intercept him. Doyan, without thinking, moved with her. Sergeant Park. Ambassador Threll shouted from the safety of the building. Get back. You cannot. Doyan ignored him. He walked to stand between the queen and the approaching male. He looked the young Valdrix directly in the eyes. No, he said firmly. This place is protected. Leave. The male stopped. It studied Doyan with those intelligent purple eyes. It looked at the queen standing behind him. It considered, then it turned and walked away. Doyan felt the queen's warm breath on the back of his neck. She made a sound, approval, pride. He had passed some kind of test that night. He made his decision. The next morning, with the whole colony watching through cameras and windows, Doyan approached the Obsidian Queen. She was lying down, resting in the warm sunlight. I want to try something, he said to her. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She rumbled softly. Her eyes followed him as he moved to her side. Doyan put his hands on her shoulder. The scales were warm under his palms. He could feel her muscles, the incredible power contained within her body. She could kill him in an instant. They both knew it. But trust went both ways. He climbed onto her back. The queen shifted beneath him. For one terrible moment, he thought he had made a mistake. Then she stood up, smooth and careful, making sure he stayed balanced. Duhaon was riding a Valdrix, the first human in history to sit on the back of the galaxy's deadliest predator. The queen began to walk. Slowly at first, then faster. She moved along the perimeter of the colony, her stride eating up ground. Wind rushed past Doyen's face. The jungle blurred around him. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was flying inside the colony. Aliens watched with their mouths open. Some were crying. Some were praying. Director Shin was already dictating messages to Earth. Ambassador Threll stood at the window, unable to look away. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." But it was happening. Right in front of his eyes, Eunice stood beside him, a small smile on her face. "You know what the funny thing is?" she said quietly. "Back on Earth, humans have been doing this for thousands of years. Horses, elephants, camels. We find the biggest, most dangerous animals we can, and then we figure out how to ride them." She watched Doyon disappear into the jungle on the back of the Obsidian Queen. "The galaxy told us to fear the apex predator. They never considered that the apex predator might become our friend." 3 months had passed since Doyon first rode the Obsidian Queen. In that time, the colony on Vega 7 had transformed into something no one had ever imagined. The Valdrix Relations unit now had 8 human members. Captain G.A. Moon led the team with military precision and genuine care. She was 35 years old, with steady hands and a voice that could calm any situation. Under her command, the humans had bonded with 4 Valdrix, including the Queen. Young Jicho had formed a connection with a younger female they named Storm. Youngdae worked with an elderly male called Grandfather, who moved slowly but watched everything with ancient wisdom. And Doyen remained the Queen's partner, their bond growing stronger every day. The galaxy watched with a mixture of wonder and fear. Some species sent ambassadors to learn from the humans. They wanted to understand. They wanted to believe that peace with the Valdrix was possible. Others were not so hopeful. Tarn was a Brellian extremist who had lost his entire family to a Valdrix attack. His colony had been destroyed. His children had been killed. He blamed the Valdrix for everything. And now he blamed humans for making peace with the monsters. He arrived on Vega 7, pretending to be a mining inspector. No one suspected the hatred that burned in his heart. "They call it partnership," Tarn whispered to his followers during secret meetings. "They call it peace. But the Valdrix are killers. They cannot be trusted, and humans cannot be allowed to control them. Imagine an army of these creatures, guided by human hands. They would conquer the galaxy." His followers nodded. They were afraid. Fear made them easy to control. Tart had a plan. A chemical compound developed in secret laboratories. When released, it would drive the Valdrix into a killing rage. They would attack everything, destroy everything, even their human partners. "The galaxy will see the truth," Tarn said. "They will see that the Valdrix can never be tamed, and they will destroy the humans who tried." He planted the chemical canisters throughout the jungle, set the timers, and waited. The attack came at noon, when both suns were highest in the sky. Doyan was training with the Queen when he heard the first screams. Not human screams. Valdrix screams. Sounds of pain and confusion and terrible rage. The Queen stopped moving. Her body went rigid. Her eyes, normally calm and intelligent, began to glow, brighter, hotter. Something was wrong. "Easy," Doyan said, his voice steady. "Easy. I'm here." But the Queen was not listening. She was fighting something inside herself. Her muscles shook. Her teeth bared. A growl rose from her chest. Deeper and more dangerous than anything Do-Yoon had heard before, the chemical had reached her. Across the colony, erupted. Valdrix that had been peaceful were now attacking everything they could find. Energy shields sparked, and failed under their assault. Buildings collapsed. Aliens ran screaming through the streets. Captain G.A. Moon's voice came through the communicator. All Valdrix relations personnel, emergency protocol. The creatures are compromised. Some kind of chemical agent. Do we evacuate? Someone asked. Negative, G.A. responded. If we leave, the colony falls. Everyone here dies. We need to calm them down. How? There was silence on the channel. No one had an answer. Do-Yan looked at the Queen. She was still fighting the rage, her whole body trembling with the effort. He could see it in her eyes. Part of her wanted to kill. Part of her remembered who he was. The two parts were at war. He made his choice. Do-Yan climbed down from her back and walked around to face her. Her mouth was open, showing teeth that could bite through steel. Her claws dug into the ground. She was massive and beautiful and absolutely terrifying. He didn't run. Hey, he said softly. It's me. It's Do-Yun. You know me? You chose me. Remember? The Queen roared. The sound was so loud it made his bones shake. She lunged forward, her jaws snapping inches from his face. He didn't move. I'm not afraid of you, he said. I know you're in there. I know you're fighting. Keep fighting. I'm right here. I'm not leaving. The Queen stopped. Her eyes flickered. The chemical burned in her blood, telling her to kill. But something else burned stronger. The bond they had built. The trust. The love. Do-Yan raised his hand, just like he had that first night in the rain. Come back to me. The Queen made a sound. Not a roar. A whimper. Like a creature in terrible pain. Then she pressed her snout against his palm. The rage broke. Do-Yan could see it leave her body like a wave rolling back from shore. Her eyes dimmed to their normal purple glow. Her muscles relaxed. She was herself again. She made that rumbling sound. The one that meant family. Do-Yan allowed himself to breathe. Around the colony, the other human handlers were doing the same thing. Hunji sat with Storm, speaking softly, while the young Valdrix cried. Yuna held grandfather's face in her hands, her tears mixing with his. Ga stood between her bonded Valdrix and a group of terrified aliens, protecting both sides from each other. One by one, the Valdrix calmed. The chemical could enrage them, but it could not break the bonds they had formed. Human connection was stronger than human chemistry. The crisis passed. They found Tarn hiding in a storage building. He was arrested and taken to the detention center. Under questioning, he confessed everything. His hatred, his plan, his belief that humans were a danger to the galaxy. You don't understand, Tarn screamed as they led him away. The Valdrix are monsters, and humans are worse. They must be stopped. Ambassador Threll watched him go with sad eyes. He lost his family to the Valdrix. I cannot blame him for his fear. Fear is understandable, Director Shin said coldly. Terrorism is not. He almost killed everyone in this colony. But he failed, Do-Yan said quietly. The bonds held. The Valdrix fought the rage because they didn't want to hurt us. That has to mean something. It means trouble, Ambassador Threll replied. Tarn is not alone in his beliefs. Many species fear what humans have created here. The Galactic Council has already called an emergency session. They want to discuss the human problem. The human problem? Yuna asked. You have done the impossible. You have tamed the untamable. Some see that as hope. Others see it as a threat. The ambassador shook his head. You will be called to testify before the High Council. They will decide if your work here continues. Do-Yan looked out the window. The Queen was there, standing guard as always. Beyond her, Storm and Grandfather and the others were gathering. For Valdrix, loyal to the humans who had earned their trust. The galaxy called them monsters. The deadliest creatures in known space. But Do-Yan knew the truth. They were family. And family protected each other. Let them call us, he said. Let them ask their questions. We have nothing to hide. Captain G.A. Moon nodded. Then we prepare. We tell them what we've learned, what we've built, and we hope they listen. Yanji looked at the Valdrix outside. And if they don't? If they decide we're too dangerous? No one had an answer to that, but outside, the queen raised her head and roared. Not in anger. In defiance. In promise, she would fight for her pack. No matter who stood against them, the Galactic Council Chamber was the largest room Dojan had ever seen. It stretched upward like a cathedral, filled with floating platforms where representatives from hundreds of species sat watching. Lights of every color filled the space. Sounds of 1,000 different languages hummed through translation devices. At the center of it all, on a small platform stood the humans, Dogen. Yuna, Captain G.A. Moon, and Director Hwan Shin faced the council together. Behind them, holographic screens showed images from Vega 7, the Valdrix, the Bonds, the Crisis, the High Speaker, an ancient being made of living crystal, called the session to order. We are gathered to discuss the matter of human interaction with the Valdrix species. The evidence has been reviewed. The testimonies have been submitted. Now we hear final arguments. The prosecution spoke first. A Brellian senator named Dor, who represented the species that had suffered most from Valdrix attacks over the centuries. The evidence is clear, Dor said. His voice echoed through the chamber. Humans have formed bonds with the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. They ride them. They command them. They have turned apex predators into weapons. He waved at the screens. Look at what they have created. An army of death, loyal to human masters. How long before they use this army against us? How long before human ambition turns the Valdrix on innocent worlds? Murmurs spread through the council. Many representatives nodded in agreement. Humans are dangerous, Dor continued. They have no fear. They form bonds with killers. They refuse to follow the rules that keep the rest of us safe. I move that all human activity on Valdrix worlds be banned immediately, for the safety of the galaxy. The High Speaker turned to the human delegation. You may respond. Director Shin stepped forward. She spoke calmly, her voice steady. Senator Dor speaks from fear. I understand that fear. The Valdrix have caused tremendous suffering across the galaxy. But fear alone cannot guide policy. Fear leads to mistakes. Fear prevents progress. She gestured at the screens. Yes, humans have bonded with the Valdrix. Yes, we can communicate with them in ways no other species can. But this is not a threat. This is an opportunity. An opportunity for what? Someone shouted. For humans to control the galaxy. For peace? Director Shin replied. For the first time in history, we have a chance to end Valdrix attacks forever. Not through weapons. Not through walls. Through understanding. She stepped back and nodded to Yuan. The xenobiologist walked to the center of the platform. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her voice was clear. I have studied the Valdrix for years. I have learned their language, their culture, their needs. They are not mindless monsters. They are intelligent beings with complex social structures. They attack not from cruelty, but from territory defense. From protection of their young? From fear of species they cannot understand? She brought up new images. Valdrix caring for their offspring. Valdrix mourning their dead. Valdrix playing in the fields of Vega 7, rolling in the grass like giant cats. Humans are unique because we can communicate across that gap. We can show them that we are not threats. We can negotiate. We can build trust. And through that trust, we can prevent the attacks that have killed so many. A Vellani representative raised a tendril. But why humans? What makes you different? Yuna smiled slightly. Because we are crazy. Laughter rippled through some sections of the chamber. Confusion filled others. I'm serious, Yuna continued. Human evolution happened on a death world. Earth is filled with predators, diseases, natural disasters. We learn to survive by adapting, by being stubborn, by refusing to accept that danger means death. She pulled up images of Earth, humans riding horses, training falcons, swimming with sharks, walking beside lions. For 10,000 years, Humans have been finding the most dangerous creatures on our planet and making friends with them. We don't run from predators. We learn to understand them. We earn their respect. We become their partners. She looked directly at the council. The Valdrix are not different. They are just bigger. And now, for the first time, someone has shown them that not all species are enemies. That trust is possible. That peace can exist. The chamber was silent. Representatives looked at each other with uncertain expressions. Captain G.A. Moon stepped forward next. Her military bearing commanded attention. I spent 15 years fighting wars for the Galactic Union. I have seen what weapons can do. I have seen the cost of violence. And I am telling you now, the path of fear leads only to more death. She gestured at Doyon. This man stood in front of a raging Valdrix and refused to move. He trusted the bond he had built. He bet his life on the belief that understanding is stronger than chemicals, stronger than rage, stronger than instinct. And he won. Dor stood up angrily. One incident proves nothing. The Valdrix could turn on you at any moment. They could, G.A. agreed, and we accept that risk. Because the alternative is endless war, endless death, endless fear. She shook her head. I am tired of being afraid. It's time to try something different. Finally, Dojon stepped forward. He had not prepared a speech. He was not a politician or a scientist or a military leader. He was just a soldier who had found something worth protecting. I don't have fancy words, he said simply. I just have a question. The chamber waited. How many of your worlds have Valdrix problems? How many colonies have you abandoned? How many of your people have died? No one answered. But the numbers were known to everyone. Thousands of worlds, millions of deaths, centuries of terror. I can help, Doyon said. We can help. Let us try. Let us go to your colonies. Let us show the Valdrix that they don't have to fight, that they can have peace. He looked at Dor. I know you're scared. I know you've lost people. So have I. But killing every Valdrix in the galaxy won't bring them back. And it won't end the fear. He paused. Trust might. The High Speaker turned to the council. We will now vote on an alarm suddenly filled the chamber. Red lights flashed across every platform. The High Speaker's crystal form flickered with confusion. Emergency transmission, someone announced. A Valdrix pack is attacking a Villani colony ship in Sector 7. 3,000 civilians aboard. No military support in range? Panic spread through the chamber. The Villani representatives cried out in horror. Their people were dying and no one could help. Doyon looked at his team. Yuna nodded. G.A. straightened her shoulders. Director Shin smiled slightly. Let us help, Doyon said to the council. Then decide. 10 minutes later, a Union fast transport shot toward Sector 7 at maximum speed. Inside, Doyon, Yuna, G.A., and Yunji checked their equipment and reviewed the situation. Behind them, in special transport pods, traveled the Queen, Storm, Grandfather, and a fourth Valdrix named Shadow. 4 bonded predators, ready to fight for their pack. They arrived at the colony ship to find chaos. 3 wild Valdrix were tearing at the hull, trying to reach the passengers inside. Fires burned. Alarms screamed. Escape pods launched desperately into space. The transport opened. The human team emerged. Doyon climbed onto the Queen's back. She roared, announcing her presence to the wild pack. The attacking Valdrix stopped. They turned. They saw a human, riding their greatest queen, coming toward them without fear. Doyon dismounted and walked forward alone. The wild Valdrix watched him approach. They were confused, uncertain. This small creature should be running, should be screaming, should be dying. But he just kept walking. He stopped in front of the largest attacker, looked it in the eyes. Enough, he said quietly. The Valdrix growled, but the growl had no conviction. It had never faced anything like this before. A creature with no fear? A creature that smelled like the Queen, like pack. Behind Doyon, The Obsidian Queen rumbled. A message. A warning. A promise. These humans are mine. Touch them and answer to me. The wild Valdrix lowered their heads. Not in submission. In recognition. In acceptance, Dohian extended his hand. The largest attacker sniffed it, considered, then pressed its snout. On the colony ship, 3,000 Villani watched through cameras. In the council chamber, hundreds of species watched through screens. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings watched a single human stand between the deadliest predators in existence and the innocent lives they had been about to destroy and win. Jihei's voice came through the communicator, thick with emotion. Sergeant Park, the ship is secure. All civilians are safe. Doyen nodded slowly. He looked at the wild Valdrix, then at the Queen, then at the stars above. Tell the Council, he said. Tell them what humans can do. Tell them what partnership means.